Welcome back to another episode of Anatomy of a Rumor, a podcast about B2B marketing and demand generation. This podcast is meant to help young marketers and even seasoned veterans in the field of marketing working inside B2B SaaS space to further sharpen their skills and gain the knowledge and insights from industry experts on how to adapt to the ever-changing field of demand gen and marketing. Enjoy this episode. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Anatomy of a Rumor. As usual, I'm Shabahat Ali with another extra special guest today. Today's guest is Gabby and Gabby Torres Soler. I hope I did not butcher that. But yeah, Gabby is the head of growth at a Melbourne-based B2B tech company called Matrak. It's a construction company, and today we're going to be picking brains of Gabby, and because he's got extensive experience in marketing. So welcome to the show, Gabby.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Gabby, I would like to get started by getting to know a little bit about your journey in marketing. And even before you talk to me about your journey in marketing, first of all, tell me, was this something intentional? Was this something you set out to do, or something you stumbled upon?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I grew up in the US, and when I went to uni, I was like, oh, I'll just do that, communications as a degree. But, you kind of really don't understand what that means or what that entails. And of course, through uni, it's all about this theory of communications instead of like the actual real world application. And so I did a lot of comms jobs, like traditional comms, like PR and stuff at first. And then I actually got laid off at an agency that I was working at. And I stumbled upon a digital marketing specialist role for a startup in Austin. And I was like, okay, I'll apply. I like we were actually using the software at that company that had laid me off. So it made a really easy connection. And I don't know how I got the job, but I got it. And so I started there. And that's really where I see like, oh, this is marketing. This is really what marketing can come about. And so my journey in marketing really started with them. And I started as just I would call it like a marketing generalist. So I started doing, paid campaigns and email marketing and setting up landing pages and getting really deep into SEO and all of these things. And I honestly fell in love with it from day dot. I really enjoyed that. And I really never expected to enjoy working in SaaS companies. That was never even in my purview, but it's been a love ever since. I really, really think that doing marketing for B2B and for SaaS companies specifically, you're really marrying that kind of creative branch of marketing mixed in with this data and mixed in with like seeing how your customers are really engaging with whether it's your content or your message or the different events that you go to, and attributing all of these different channels and activities to that. And that's really where my marketing journey started. Yeah.
Very interesting that you say that the journey in SaaS or tech marketing is enjoyable. Normally, I've heard marketers cry about it, that it's growth at all cost, and the VCs are at us, get us out of here.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're right. And it's definitely, I think I feel that pain more now as a more senior as I got. At first, it was obviously very easy to see the fun stuff. I did get really lucky because my first SaaS company was a HR software. And so what we were really selling, or the software that we were doing, was about creating happiness at work and this company culture. And so it really set the bar really high on how to marry both culture and marketing and the work that we were doing from a SaaS company into everyday life. So it definitely always has felt very fun, but I can understand how it's not fun for a lot of people. I think it's about finding the right balance about what your activities are doing and why.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you got to make it fun for yourself. I mean, no matter what you're doing, right? So it's a bit of your own mindset. So
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your current role, head of growth. What does that mean? What are the responsibilities? What's your day-to-day looking like? Like, what are you responsible for as the head of growth in the company right now?
Yeah, totally. So I started off as the marketing lead. I was hired to run and to build the strategy for the marketing department at Matrak. And it's funny because, I always, when they ask you those questions on where do you see yourself in 5 years, my journey has never thought of, I've never seen myself as like, well, I want to be a CMO at a big 500 Fortune 500 company or something like that, which I think most people in my space, or at least people that want a more established marketing career would want. I didn't ever see myself like that. And so when that conversation came up, I told my boss, I told her, I really want to actually end up being more of a CRO. Like I really like the revenue and the operation side of the business. I really like being close to sales and understanding that process and how to make it better. And so when the head of sales actually left a few months ago for, a really great opportunity, they came to me with this opportunity and were like, hey, so do you want to do marketing and sales and maybe actually customer success as well? And definitely scary, but really excited at the same time because I really, and I might get some slack for this, but I really think that those three streams or those three departments really should be extremely embedded with each other. And starting at a company so young, like we've just done our Series A last year, so we're still very nimble, very small. If we're able to connect those three departments really, really well, the growth I think is inevitable and it will be really seamless and scalable. And so my day to day is really about making sure that the CS team, the sales team, and the marketing team are not only extremely aligned, but that we're really working around the same goal, which is around that customer growth and that customer health. And on top of that it's really less about I miss the nitty gritty. I'm not in every day looking at website traffic or conversion rates, so to speak, as I used to, but I am making sure that the marketing topics that we're really thinking about relate back to the customer value that my CS team is working on, and that the sales cycle continues to be tightened up and that we're using the right resources at the right time to make sure that that transition is seamless, as much as possible.
Interesting. So you're basically leading the revenue function in the company altogether.
Correct.
Before we move ahead, I just want to clarify one thing. Are you guys sales-led or product-led motion? Like, do you guys offer a freemium kind of product or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've as many people listening probably know that it's a trial and error kind of thing. We are definitely very sales-led first. We do have I wouldn't call it a freemium model. You are allowed to start using the platform for free, but it's not as seamless as an experience as we want it to be, which is totally fine. We're just working out the kinks. But we do have a usage-based model. So you start really low on a really low tier, and then you can move your way up based on how many, essentially what we do is track materials through the construction project. So the more materials you use, the more collaborators you bring on, and essentially like visitors to a project, the higher the tier. But it's what we're trying to get is like the more value you can see from the lower level, it'll be kind of almost inevitable that you'll move up.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the solution itself.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it. Like, so you told us, gave us an overview that it's about tracking your materials.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this not just that; it's a lot more to it. So what does the solution deliver?
Yeah, I might be selling it short, but it is kind of just that. But the great thing is that has so many added benefits to the construction teams that we work with. So, for example, I think one of the biggest things that the biggest pains that our customers really see or are experiencing is that they don't have visibility across the supply chain of how their projects are going, right? And so if you think about the way supply chains work all across the world, whether it's construction or something else, the manufacturer starts it and they build it, and then it gets put on a boat, and then it gets to a site, and then it gets, sent to its final destination, right? And so the lack of visibility in each of those kind of different supply chain check marks, so to speak, it can cause a delay, or a risk factor, or costs essentially associated to it if one little thing goes wrong. And what's really interesting is that in construction, materials are about 40 to 50% of the project cost. However, 80% of the project problems come from those materials. So our founders really thought, well, if they can't get visibility into where that material is at any time, that can derail the whole project. And that obviously comes with a lot of, like I said, penalties and risks associated to that. So the product is really built to help connect all of your supply chains together, and everyone has essentially tasks to do, which is just bringing that material through the journey of that life cycle from when it's manufactured all the way to when it's installed on site. And then everyone's just, they essentially just do a check mark, and everyone's able to see that progress on how that build is going. And I think that's really cool, is that it is actually really simple, but it solves a really, really big problem for these complex supply chains in construction.
Very interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'm not deep into the construction industry, but I've been looking at the news recently. I mean, some of the biggest companies have filed for bankruptcy, like what was the
Absolutely.
name of the company? ProBuild or something like that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And when I didn't go very deep into it, but on a surface level, what I found out was it was exactly the cost of material, and they failed to deliver on the raw materials. That was the reason they ended up doing that. So that's quite a big problem you're solving. That's is it a
It's a
billion
big
dollar
one.
industry?
I think so, but definitely
Should
worldwide.
be.
And that's what's crazy, is that the risk that these construction companies hold, like just like that ProBuilt as an example, can actually bring them down completely, right? And so we really can help mitigate that risk by giving them that visibility, and to be able to be proactive then in the way that they continue their project, right? So instead of being reactive, which is probably what happens to some of these companies that go under, and they don't see the problem until after it's actually happened, because of our solution, you're able to catch that problem before it actually even before the material even hits the water. They're able to know where it's at, how long it's going to take to get to Australia, if there are any defects that need to be redone, because it's all based on that material tracking system.
Very nice, very nice. So I think we get a good idea of the solution. I want to go back to the to your role again,
Yeah, of
and
course.
so as a head of growth, what is a misconception about the role of head of growth, whether that be inside the company or outside? What's a wrong conception people have of this role?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest misconception that I've seen is that you can't have one leader doing marketing, sales, and customer success, or marketing and sales, which is more traditional. And I say that because I think each discipline is very much specific to that role, right? A marketer cannot necessarily always be a salesperson. A CS manager can't necessarily always be a marketer. They have very specific disciplines that they just dedicate their career to, right? And they really want to hone in on that craft. However, they do work so well together when they work well together. And I think that having a holistic approach to it, and having one person overseeing it all to try to connect them and to bring that alignment across those three departments, will really make a head of growth role successful. Because at the end of the day, customers, and it's not just about acquisition, it's not just about your brand recognition, it's about customers at the end of the day when it comes to SaaS. And SaaS businesses know that it's way more expensive to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing one. So if that life cycle is continuously being built and nurtured, and that we focus on how that customer experience starts from marketing all the way to success and beyond, then it can be an extremely scalable business. So I think that the misconception really is that they're all separate functions. They all kind of actually should be working together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is an age-old debate of the alignment across sales and marketing, and now we've got a modern function, which is customer success. Um,
Hmm.
so as the head of growth, as someone who's looking after the revenue function, and you touched upon that, creating alignment is one of the biggest probably job function that you have in there, right? Um,
Definitely.
and tactically speaking, you talked about keeping a view of the customer journey in
Mm.
every department to create that alignment. Apart from having a good view of the customer journey, what are the other tactical things you are doing to create alignment across the board?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, so alignment can come from different ways, right? I think there has to be like overall company culture alignment. Like everyone has to really know that we're sailing on the same ship in the right direction, not that we're doing different things for different reasons. So really having a clear company strategy first and foremost, and how each of those different whether they're department KPIs or department goals, however you want to call them, that they all align back to that one metric, so to speak, right? So at Matrak, for example, we're less focused on revenue numbers. Like that's obviously important and that makes obviously a big impact because we're a business, but we're really trying to focus less on that and focus on the monthly active connections or the monthly active users on specific projects, right? Because we know that the more connected the supply chains are, the more of an impact it'll have on our customers, which in turn will turn into more revenue, right? And so I think that the alignment piece there is making sure that everyone understands that they have to drive into that. On the flip side, I think the other thing is making sure that there's a constant flow of feedback. And I think feedback is another piece that companies or departments that are like sales and marketing, right, that there is tons of friction. If that feedback loop is really strong, if we're understanding what's working and what's not working and how we can improve it for the next time, instead of the normal old age, blame game of, well, marketing didn't do this and they just handed me all these MQLs and they don't mean anything and they're rubbish, and or CS, let this customer churn, or sales didn't, removing that and making it more of a feedback loop where we're really digging into how the customers are operating, what things could have we done better, what, like, as a team, as one team, not just as each individual player on the team or each individual department, I think will help breed that definitely helps breed that alignment across teams as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we keep debating about, especially marketers, we make things so difficult, right? And
We do.
you simplify it. Like, it's about feedback, it's about communicating, right?
Yeah.
If you want to create alignment, just communicate with each other and you'll find that. Very, very interesting. Construction is a very traditional industry, Gabby. People running it are old people normally. Don't get a lot of digital and all of that stuff. They're still in their old ways. Are you finding it tough to penetrate the industry? What are the challenges that you're facing working for such a traditional industry?
Yeah, it's actually been a very eye-opening experience, to be honest. But this is my first construction startup, and this is actually the first startup or software that I'm selling that is into a market that is very old school. And I always, when I first started, you would hear it as like it's the last frontier for tech, and I really didn't understand why, and now I really do. And so I look, obviously there are challenges because I think if I put myself in the customer's shoes, they're seeing it as, well, we get the projects done, we do our work, like why change what's not broken, right? And so it's really what we found is that it's actually creating a change management. It's a change management plan that we have to be working with them, right? Helping them realize that sure, the way you're doing it is fine, it's not bad, it's obviously worked for a long time, but what if I told you there's an easier, simpler way, and that it'll save you a lot of money and it'll save you a lot of time and everyone can communicate and you don't have to have 18 copies of your Excel spreadsheets and you don't have to, be going around the work site for an hour just to check that everything's done. You can do, and then go back to your computer and email and wait for this claim and that claim. And so I think I think the challenge it's less about getting the general adoption. It's about the issue is that adoption, but it's less about I'm adverse to tech as a whole. It's more on, well, if I don't want to change it because it's not broken, essentially. So the challenge or the opportunity that we really have in marketing and sales is to be able to demonstrate that value and why adopting this tech will be better for you. And oh, by the way, it's not just this tech, it's our tech that's really going to be the game changer, right?
Absolutely. So what I'm getting, the challenge right now you're facing is that you need to make them realize that it's not a nice to have, it's a you need to have. You need to have this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And the company, the industry is also quite like cutthroat in the sense of everyone's trying to, save the most money and be the most innovative in different ways. And because then you really look like the best, the best in the biz, and they want to work with you, and developers pick their clients based on that, right? So I think that if we're able to, which we're doing, which is exciting, if we're able to start with those companies that do see that value from day dot, and they're able to really embed our system into their systems and see those improvements on how they can be saving that money and saving that time and increasing efficiencies across the board, other companies that are their competitors will be like, oh, wow, they're doing something good. Like, what are they doing? And that's the exciting change that we're starting to see.
Interesting. And on the digital front, when you're doing across the three functions, when you're doing the marketing function, uh, what are you seeing? Because construction industry, again, traditional industry, targeting through digital, gonna be tough. What are you seeing there? Is there a particular channel that's driving good results for you on digital?
It's very interesting, and it's been actually quite, that's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen thus far. We've tested a bunch of stuff. We've definitely done traditional adverts on like pub trade magazines. We've done Google ads. We've done, email marketing. We do webinars. We've done events. I think the face to face is a really big thing for construction. So from a marketing, looking into the next year, events will probably be one of the bigger things we focus on because they like that contact with people. They like going to job sites and doing things like that. So I see it more as a field marketing approach with construction companies. I also do think that trade pubs are probably stronger than just traditional media or just like paid socials and paid search, for example. They obviously, we obviously want to show up when they Google us, but we aren't driving the leads or the traffic, the best traffic from those channels. And so it's really funny because we work with this one trade publication here in Australia called Inside Construction, and they've just actually launched their physical print magazine this year. And everyone thought they were crazy, but it makes sense because construction is that old school industry. They like being on site and have the magazines and pop it open while they're having a coffee, and like that's where we know we'll get probably more readers than we do online. So yeah.
Yeah, they like reading that with their coffee and the sausage roll. You forgot the sausage roll.
Exactly, and the sausage roll, of course.
Interesting. So, is there any interesting experiments that you're running on that front, apart from print in that publication? Is there any interesting experiments that you're running right now?
Yeah, from a marketing front, a couple of things that we have trialed in the last few months is really digging into our social media strategy, and it seems kind of counterintuitive to what I just said, but it's because we actually do get a lot of traction on LinkedIn. We do have a lot of people finding us on LinkedIn, and so the way that if you look at the way that the construction companies are built, right? A lot of them are starting to have those kind of head of digital innovation or those innovation strategy people, and they live on LinkedIn. They're connecting with people, they're networking with people online. So really building up our organic social has actually helped a lot and has had really high engagements. We actually just did the social report, just looking for the last quarter, and it's shot up by like 15% month on month just on organic growth, and that's just us sharing a few times a week. So we're trying to double down on that and really focus on being industry leaders, right? And sharing wins about the companies that we work with that are doing really well, sharing industry news that are kind of more that they're disrupting the industry, right, with these innovative techs, and really hoping to penetrate it that way. But the biggest experiment it's just a continuous trial and error of what are the different messages that are resonating and landing, and we've really gone up and down in terms of, or it's been an up and down in terms of figuring out like what the best message is to share with customers to understand what we do. And so that's been the most interesting experiment that we've done thus far, because we're still trying to tinker, like what is it that we do and how we know what we do, but how do we explain it in a way that customers are like, yep, that makes sense.
Absolutely. And interesting that you mentioned that, because so we work with a lot of B2B tech companies as well, right? And what we're seeing across the board right now is that content is more important than ever.
Really is.
Gone are the days where it would work for B2B to run an ad to a landing page and you'll get an email and you'll convert. No, it's not working like that. So it's becoming about content. It's becoming about educating in the feed and then them coming inbound.
Yes,
And with content, something that I've seen that works really well. I mean, this is something that you can test as well. If you've got a subject matter expert on the team, I mean, you've got a gold mine of content right there. Um,
absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. We have actually, um, we're, I'm quite grateful that we have actually a lot of construction veterans that have either sold construction software or have worked in construction for a while. And so we're able to really understand what the pain that the customers are feeling. And you're exactly right. I agree. I've always said that content, content is king, and then the distribution is like the second part of that, right? So, what are we have to make sure that what we're saying is driving that value, helping them understand, reframe the way that they're looking at their problem and helping them find the best solutions for that, right? And so I think that our main goal is to really shed light on like, look, material tracking is the way of the future. It is inevitable. Let us help you on this journey, and that's going to start. We're really going to start seeing an impact on from an inbound perspective on that soon.
very interesting. Very interesting. So, what is the most significant driver of growth in all of this right now, in everything that you're doing? What are you seeing, and particularly from a marketing side and on the digital side, what are you seeing, not in even just in your business, from your observation in general, what are you seeing is a channel that is not heavily saturated, I can say, maybe, or that has the potential to deliver the biggest growth for B2B tech companies right now?
Do you know what? I have some thoughts. I think the biggest driver, and it may not be a channel, but one thing that I think, and obviously this is very specific to more product-led growth companies, and that they just do this really well. But we're gone are the days, and maybe not for construction because we're a bit more old school, but gone are the days where you go to like you said, you see an ad, you go to the website, you see that you have to request a demo, and you fill it out. People don't want to talk to people. People don't want to really have to go through a really long sales cycle unless it's something like a Salesforce or a HubSpot where it's a bit more complex. People want to just try it out for themselves and try to understand that that tool is working for them. And so I think that the biggest opportunity is for companies that may not be product led. How can you really build up your product marketing, maybe, or your product knowledge, so to speak, to the forefront, and make your product the selling point? And that could be through, we use Intercom, for example, to do guided tours, or to have like chatbots that help with videos and trainings, or even just like product demos that are like 2 to 3 minutes long that can just show you slices of it, that you don't have to feel that you have to sit with a salesperson for 30, 40 minutes, right? And so I know that not every business can be product led, but the ones that can't be, what are ways where you can leverage your product and the product value on the marketing website, or on your LinkedIn, or on your socials, or on your email, to really drive that, like, it's so easy to use. Just let us, I'm kind of giving you sneak peeks on it, right? And so I think that we're just moving more towards a product-led model, or product-led growth model. I think across the board, more companies are focused on being product-led. And while that's not for everyone, I think there are specific things that we can do that, like, if you make your product shine, and if you can find ways to showcase your product without, feeling like you're giving away too much, like just being really open with that, I think I think that's gonna be the biggest game changer. Because even when I started in my career, which was 10 years ago now, it was always about driving those MQLs, about those inbounds coming to us, and we control the narrative, we control the story, we show them what we want to show them. And then it just drags out, and it takes forever then to close a deal, and then it takes forever to do these things. But if we're able to just give them what they want, essentially, if they're the right customer for you, they'll sign up, because they're like, yes, this is exactly what I want. So removing those barriers are really going to be the biggest drivers from a marketing perspective.
Absolutely. And as marketers, it was about manipulating the buyer's journey for us up till a couple of years
Absolutely.
ago. And now it's about assisting it and complementing it. There's no other way around it.
100%.
And another thing that you touched upon product-led growth and how so what's basically happening, why product-led is becoming important is because the consumer behavior is changing, right? And
Yeah, totally.
what's happening is basically the consumers now have so much options, they have so much information that simply a salesperson was required because the customer did not have access to the information, and hence the salesperson would provide that information for the
Right.
customer, and then they could make a decision. But now they've got
Mm.
internet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll get their own information. They don't need that guy. They need to know about the product, and they'll find it on the internet. And
Exactly.
and an interesting thing that I was listening to a podcast this morning by a VC, and he said that the next wave of product, in addition to product led, is going to be a utilization based model. So,
Mm.
and going back to that point of yours, where customers are becoming more sophisticated, right? And they've got
Mm-hmm.
so they need better options, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, so we don't want to waste like a lot of SaaS subscriptions you have, and you don't use them for 2 months. You only need them for a certain action, certain point, and it makes sense to have a utilization based model, and that's something that companies like AWS is doing. A company
Totally.
like VMware are doing, like the amount of bandwidth you use, you pay. So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye out on. But I don't know how that's going to affect. Like, I mean, a VC was talking about it, but
Mm.
on the other hand, I'm thinking if a company comes to you with that kind of a model, you're not going to give them any valuations because they don't have recurring revenue.
No, well, totally. Well, I think, I mean, it's really interesting. I actually was listening to a not a podcast. It was a training, like, RevOps training video, and they were talking a lot about that utilization piece as well, and how that's actually what we're going to be seeing more of. So maybe we're listening to the same things, but they also touched on that, and I found that really interesting because, and I agree with your point. It's going to be hard to really, like, well, how you essentially want them to be using more, because more means more revenue, and then if they're always teetering on these levels, I guess, how do you track that? But I think it always is going to come down to the value, right? And so if AWS, I'm not a I don't use AWS personally, but if I'm finding the value from AWS, I'm going to pay more for it because I need it, right? It's what I need to do my job. And I think if more products, more SaaS businesses that follow that model, or tend to, or end up adopting that kind of model, they have to really make sure that the value that they're bringing from the smallest usage all the way to the highest is just delivering on that value consistently. So it's all about, like, again, come back to the customer journey, right, from a marketing perspective as well. Like, it's all about driving that customer value, because a customer's not going to leave you if you're valuable. If you're solving their problem, they're not going to want to leave you. So you have to just make sure that you're doing that from day dot.
Absolutely. I actually did a LinkedIn post recently, and I said, I never in my life have I brought a product. I either bought a solution or an experience. So,
Totally.
you know, so it's about the value that you're delivering. It's not about what you're selling to me. So interesting. Let's go into. So we've talked about your marketing side of the job, right? Let's dive into the sales side of the job. Um,
Yes.
so there's a lot of debate going on around the traditional demand waterfall model and the function of an SDR and all of that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have an SDR team. We have an external SDR team based here in Australia called Pointer, which is really great, and they essentially are helping us build that top of funnel pipeline, right? And I think marketing definitely is, um, the way I see it is twofold. You need, when you're young, when you kind of haven't figured out what's working and not working, an SDR is great, right? Because that message can be consistent, and you can just get that feedback really quickly, and it's human. Marketing takes time. Marketing is a slower burn, but once it's good, it's really good, right? And those inbounds come, and the conversions will be higher, and you'll see them, like, because it's just that consistent flow, right? But that takes a lot of time to build, and a lot of time to build it right. And especially now with, how Google changes their SEO, and, you have to be paying so much money for these ads and all the other things that you can't have. I wish I had 18 people writing content at all times, but that's just not feasible for me, right? So, from a sales perspective, I think an SDR team I think the demand waterfall is important, right? I mean, especially if you're still in a traditional sales led SaaS company, um, it helps connect the dots and it helps bring people in the door. However, where I do see sales SDR teams or sales functions kind of disconnecting is when you do a just spray and pray method and just try to hit everyone at once. They all still come with a lot of strategy. Like it has to be built with purpose around it. You just can't just go after everyone and hope it something sticks, because then the salespeople get mad that you're booking all these meetings that have nothing to do with the product, and I keep close losting them, and then the others don't get paid, and then and it's just again, it creates more headache than it should be. So it has to be thoughtful. It has to be really built out. It has to be done with meeting. You really have to and where I struggle is that the SDRs are usually the more junior teammates, right? They're the more junior team members, are the ones that get paid the least, are the ones that have the highest risk, but they're actually on the front lines. They're the ones talking to these prospects and understanding their pain first. So actually, it kind of should be flipped, which might be a little bit of a, people might not agree, but I actually think it should be flipped. They're the ones really providing us with the insight of what's working, what's not, why our solution should be better. And they should be helping us drive the strategy as salespeople on how to have these conversations, right? And so focusing more on building that strategy, like what is a nice, really, to use jargon, what does a good IC persona look like? What is our actual, buyer experience should be? That SDR team is that they're owning that. They should be a part of that process. And I don't think we give enough merit where merit's due there.
Absolutely. I think you hit it right in the head. I mean, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk about as well. I mean, it's not the SDR, is SDR people or is SDR job function. Like it's the way that we set them up.
Totally. Exactly.
Right? I mean, a recent college graduate, you setting them out to talk to a CFO, how can they won't be able to have a business level conversation with them. And of course,
No.
then they're not going to be delivering that efficiency. So, I mean, we really need to rethink the SDR model and the function of an SDR, the role of an SDR, basically.
100%.
Yeah. So, in terms of metrics as a head of growth, what are the key metrics that because attribution is a big topic as well, right? Everyone's got subjective thoughts about what to measure, how to measure them. What are you measuring, and what are you keeping a close eye on for the growth of the company as a marketer and as a revenue person?
Yeah, so the big things that I really keep an eye out, it's less about volume and it's more about conversion rates. That's really what I care about the most. I obviously want to see, that meetings are being booked. I don't want to, we can't really base metrics off of 5 meetings a year, but I do think that it's more quality than quantity. So conversion rates are very important to me. I want to understand how qualified are these, for example, as this SDR team, are the meetings that they're booking the right meetings for the sales team, right? Are they actually entering the funnel? Are people having these meaningful conversations, and is business closing, right? So conversion rates are very important. From a sales, obviously revenue closed one is really important, but it's more about it, and it's less about the actual number each quarter, but that there's continuous growth. So we try to track between 8 and 10% if we can on month growth, and just understanding where those levels, what levers we can pull to figure out why 1 month is good or 1 month is bad. It'll never be always consistent. As we know, it's a startup. Construction is a very, fickle business where projects are delayed and things don't start on time. And so we have to take that with a really big grain of salt. But those are things that we also, that MRR consistency is something that we really look out for as well. And then honestly, the other 2 big ones that I try to focus on, and this is again because we're so young, there's a lot of things that we've just never done. So I'm trying to set baselines, right? Let's see how many what we call MQLs we get a quarter, right? Let's see how many inbounds we get, and we can start with, okay, we've just gotten 20 this month. that's the benchmark. Let's see if we can increase that. And if we can increase that, let's make sure that those conversion rates also increase as well, right? Those are the things that when you're so young, you throw these words and these things and these, like, business jargon, but like just trying to set a foundation on, let's keep churn really low, whatever that looks like. We don't know yet, but let's just focus on keeping it, let's say, under 10%. Maybe 10% is way too high. Okay, let's keep it under 5%. Oh, that's actually too high still. Great, let's keep it under 2, and like really start figuring out where those benchmarks are. From a marketing perspective as well, I really, because we're so young, I also just want to see upward trends, right? So that I want to understand that our content is being read, and that our website traffic, that our SEO is, we're ranking for our keywords, and that we're being found on Google. And so I want to make sure that the website traffic is up. Whether or not that converts into something right now may not mean much, but I want to make sure that our visibility into the ether is valuable, right? So little things like that. I think the biggest one, the one metric that might be a little bit outside of what a growth metric or traditional growth metric would be, is user adoption. And that's a really big one that we're actually tracking across all departments, that's including our product team. But if we know as a business, that's one thing that we have validated, that the more people that use the product, and this is more universal, but the more people that use the product, the more value they're getting, the more likely they are to stay and that they are to expand. So user adoption is a massive one for the whole company, from product to CS to sales and marketing.
You brought it home beautifully. I think that is the North Star, right? Especially for a younger company. I mean, that's the ultimate signal of a product market fit.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is definitely the key to unlocking every other aspect of growth. Very, very interesting. So I've got a couple of questions more, but I wanna so something just popped up in my mind. If I made Gabby the god of SaaS marketing for the next 60 minutes, globally, right? And Gabby could change, or Gabby could remove things from the world of SaaS marketing. What would be one thing that you would change in the world of tech marketing?
Oh, I don't know if this is the right thing to change, but I think it would be to remove the remove forms from everywhere. Stop
Oh,
making people put in their email for things. And I say that for two reasons. One, because there is so much content out there, right? We're flooded, right? And we know content is king, but we're flooded with so much content. Why are we going to make it one step harder for people to consume it? Why should we make it more difficult for people to enjoy what we're saying? I totally understand wanting to grow the database and have people to prospect and all of these things, but let them read it. Let them consume what they want to consume and experience it how they want to experience it. Because at the end of the day, what we're driving is value. And if they're getting value from that, that should in turn bring them back to buy our business, right? So maybe it's not what you were expecting, but I do them still because it's a bad habit to break. And I do still put forms in because, there's obviously forms, like I want to make sure that if someone asks for a demo, I know who's asking for it. So there's a time and a place, but I that's the one habit that I'm trying to break myself out of, is I don't need to track every single person that reads my consumes my content, because if they are really interested, they'll reach out to us and they'll say, hey, I think you guys are doing a brilliant job. I want to learn more.
well, my lord, you'll be happy to know that we are 100% ungated in all of our advertising,
I love
right?
it.
Across all the clients, that's why we don't take on every client if we don't match on that. And we're gonna use advertisement purely as a distribution vehicle, not as a conversion
Absolutely.
vehicle. Yes, we do. Well, I'm gonna be lying if I said 100% for formless. We are using forms in events. Like if
Yeah,
we're trying to run ads and get someone into an event, we need that
of
information,
course.
right?
Of
So
course.
that
Exactly.
is the literally only point where we've got a
Yep.
form. Apart from
Yep.
that, it's all content distribution,
Yep.
literally ungated through and through. So your wish, well, I mean, yeah, your wish has been
At
granted.
least, at least you're granting my wish. So that's
Well, you were the god, but I'm granting the wish. So there we go. Okay, so Gabby, is there a company that is doing good marketing that's caught your eye recently? Is there someone that you're looking at?
So there's a couple of the companies that I really do admire from their marketing, and it's a mix of brand and what I consider demand, right? Like brand, obviously them being that they have a really strong brand ethos and presence, and you hear the a thing and you associate them to that, right? So and then from a demand side, that just that really rich content and showing value to those customers and just instilling that in turn that makes me want to use their product, right? So I'll give two examples. The brand marketer or the brand marketing god or would be Miro. They just have such a strong brand presence. They know what they do and they know they do it well, and they have a lot of competitors in the whiteboarding space, and they still outsmart everyone in that way. They're really not only are they just beautiful to look at, but they just really know how to share their message and what it is that they're trying to achieve. And then from a more demand side, and they are product led, so it's a little bit, we have to take it with that. But it's Intercom. Intercom is still one of my favorite like SaaS companies of all times, and I wouldn't, I don't think I could ever work for now a big kind of scale up because I'm so used to being in the weeds with everyone in the ground. However, like that, if my younger years, that would be a company that I would have loved to have experience working at because they just do marketing so well. They really take you on the journey. They really showcase their product and they help you understand and adopt that product. And you can tell that they're obsessed with that product usage and user adoption. And I think that's really important in marketing.
Very interesting. I've noted down those names. I'm gonna do a deep dive into their backend and see what they're doing. Um, okay, so we've got a rapid fire round at the end, but before the
Okay.
rapid round, I've got one final question. And
Yeah.
in terms of outsourcing and in terms of agency relations, what do you think the role of an agency in a modern day SaaS business is, and what are the things that you're looking out for in that relation?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, and I haven't worked for with an agency, and I've worked at Matrak for almost 2 years now, and so before that, we've had some agencies. I think the role in an agency could be a really good one. I think that there's a lot of benefit, especially if you don't have the bandwidth or the resources internally to build a marketing team, especially. Agencies are are created because they are experts and want to help clients, right? And so leveraging them for that expertise is is definitely beneficial. I think and I know you have an agency. I think the thing that has always been challenging for me with agencies is, especially at a company, for example, of the size of Matrak, where our marketing budget is, less than $100,000 a year. It's hard to figure out where to best put your resources. And if it's an agency that is hyper focused on that demand growth, I think that makes a lot more sense. I don't think that I would put resources in, for example, a brand agency, right? That's not just where I need my money. I need people to see me, to find me, to help build content, to help build that strategy. And so, as long as the agency that you're looking for, if you're a young SaaS company, you just really have to understand first what it is that you need from an agency and engage the right ones that are focused on that are not focused on, everything and anything, and they do everything right, right? So we work with we have a web agency, of course, because we don't have any, website, internal website people, but and then we have us SDR, essentially an SDR agency that helps us because these are two functions that we can't have in house, but they help us build the strategy and the process and the maintenance. And so as long as you're, looking for the agency in the right way for the right reasons, you have to really, yeah, I think they'd be extremely beneficial.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right there. With agencies, I think there's a similar problem that happens with sales and marketing departments internally, the alignment issue, right? And that's exactly
Totally.
what you're referring to as well. Some agencies are just like utterly fluff, like illustration. They'll charge like 30K for branding and logo. Um,
Right.
while the others are focused on like actually delivering the business outcomes and aligning with the business. And that's something that we've realized. So when we started, like I started my agency, we were a general agency, and I started when we worked with a few clients, we saw that that was a niche we wanted to go in, and I really studied. And now that's how we're positioning our agency. So we've pivoted into just SaaS, and we're
Yeah.
calling ourselves a demand gen consultancy, right? And so that's how we're doing it. And that's yeah, just aligning ourselves with the business goals of the business.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, you said that you don't take on custom clients that, don't meet those same that alignment with your business, right? And I think that's really important for agencies as well because they get a bad rap, right? Like I have background in agencies as well, and they were more on the traditional side of those old school kind of ad agency, and so it was always just about like just try to get as much business as you can, whether they fit what you want to do or not. And I think that's changing, which is really exciting because you essentially don't want to waste time, neither your time or mine, on something that's not going to work. And so the alignment is really important, and just making sure that it has to align to your business as well. You're the consultant, so if you're not going to deliver value, then that's just a waste of your time on the flip side.
Exactly. And another hard thing with agencies, which I felt, and that's why hence our new positioning, is that they just work on a very surface level with you, right?
Absolutely.
Like if we're a performance marketing agency, we're just generating leads, MQLs, and it's up to you. No matter if they convert or not, we don't care,
Right,
right?
right.
But there's a need to go deeper below the surface and really work like faithfully with the client, basically.
Absolutely.
All right, Gabby, let's get into the rapid fire session. So
Okay.
this is going to be a mix of personal and professional questions.
Okay.
Um, Keep your answers brief, and let's see where we go.
Okay.
Okay, a movie or season that you're watching?
The Boys.
The Boys, Netflix,
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay, interesting.
Superheroes. It's really good.
Okay, a podcast you listen to?
10% happiness.
Ooh, okay, well, what's that about? Is that a spiritual podcast?
It's a meditation, all about like, meditation and self-help, and like helps me keep me grounded. I just listened to it this morning, so that's the only reason it's the first thing that popped up.
Well, if they teach me meditation, I want to learn that stuff. I'm
Yeah.
really looking into that. My only form of meditation right now is affirmation videos on YouTube, which are literally
These podcasts are better. They're on Spotify. There's some are 10 minutes, some are an hour, but they're just really thoughtful, good interviews with
interesting.
people.
Interesting. Favorite food?
Oh, I would have to say it's probably sushi, actually.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, no, we're not aligned over there. We've been aligned so far, not there. Favorite book that you've read?
My favorite book that I've read would be Where Did You Go, Bernadette? It's a novel, and it's funny that it's the first one that popped into my head. It's just it's a really well written novel. They have a movie. The movie was terrible, but the book was really good.
Where did you go, Bernadette? Is that like a romantic kind of thing?
It's almost like a mystery style novel, but more comedy. It's just a very funny book, actually. Yeah, but it's a
Interesting.
novel. It's a fiction novel.
Interesting. Favorite holiday spot?
Ooh, that's a really great question. So I grew up in the Caribbean. I'm from Puerto Rico, so I'd have to say that the Caribbean is my favorite vacation spot.
Ah, Puerto Rico. Interesting.
Yes.
So, so
Yeah.
you, how long have you been in Australia for? I'm pausing the rapid fire here.
No, that's okay. I've only been in Australia for 2 years, actually. I got here in October 2020.
Oh wow! And
Yeah.
why did you choose Australia?
My partner is Australian, so
Uh,
it was an added benefit that I could escape the US from COVID. So moved over here.
Interesting. And how are you finding it so far?
I love it. I actually really, really love Australia. It's a really, really amazing place to live. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool place. Favorite brand?
Favorite brand? Oh God, I'm gonna say, oh, favorite brand.
It should be an easy one for a girl. Come on.
It should. It actually, this might show a little bit on the my favorite brand is it's probably Aperol, the drink. It's just beautiful, and the old school adverts of it, and the way that they do their marketing is like,
Hmm.
summer in Italy. That's the brand. That's their brand, and I love that.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. I thought maybe you'd go with a clothing brand or something, but okay,
No,
interesting
I'm
choice.
not. I'm not very fashionable, so that's not.
A thought leader that you actually actively follow.
A thought leader that I actively follow. His name is, oh man, I'm gonna botch it, but his name is um,
Walker.
Chris Walker. Yes,
Love that
from
guy. I love that guy
yeah,
too.
he
Yeah.
is one of the few that I follow consistently and like love the stuff he puts out. Really, really resonate with the way that he does marketing. So yeah, I'd say Chris Walker for
No,
sure.
we're very aligned on that one. Your personal favorite marketing channel?
Email marketing is my favorite marketing channel.
Still with the iOS when you can't track the open rates?
It's okay. So I think I still think it's so nice. It's just, I like getting, when people do newsletters well, it's just feel, and it's a really good, yeah, I love it. I still love it for the
Yeah,
most
it's
part.
it's it's definitely a very effective channel, but very hard to nail down. Like, but if you
It is.
can, it can be amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Your favorite Martech tool?
My favorite MarTech tool is HubSpot.
Huh, yes.
I'm in it day in and day out, and yeah, I I still I still love HubSpot so much.
And the best thing about it is like being such a powerful tool. It's still so simple to use.
It
Like it's so
really
easy
is.
to navigate.
It really, really is. And they're one that their journey of, being very SaaS first or sales first to converting to more product led and everything in between. Like they are just a brand that I've always admired. Like, and I love the tool, and their
Hmm.
features that they keep coming out with are great. And yeah, they're, I mean, honestly, I use it every day, so I couldn't say anything else.
Same. We're on HubSpot as well. I know we made you God for a little while, which could
Mm.
have been there. That could have been your unpopular opinion, but I'm still gonna go for it again. Your unpopular marketing opinion.
My unpopular marketing opinion. Oh, I'll this I actually might this might be actually more unpopular, is that your brand almost doesn't matter if your content and your like value isn't very good, right? Like you can have the prettiest of brands, but if it's still outputting, crappy stuff, then it's kind of irrelevant. So
Amen.
I think that would be my unpopular opinion. People focus a lot on the brand, right? But that's kind of secondary to the rest.
That sounds like your logical opinion because the only thing that that matters is your product, right? If you don't have that, you can't. No way you're getting a brand. Most valuable lesson that you've learned through your career.
Oh, I think the most valuable lesson, that's a really good one. I think one of the I think the most valuable lesson is to always bring it back to basics. I think we tend to overcomplicate processes and add jargon and, say MQLs and KPIs and, attribution and all of this stuff that honestly really doesn't matter unless you get those foundations right. So I think the biggest lesson is like just always remind yourself to bring it back to the basics and to build that foundation. Because if not, you can't, yeah, you won't succeed.
Hallelujah. You're from Texas,
Yeah.
right? um, who was an important mentor in your career and what role did they play?
She is still my mentor today, and I cannot wait to send this to her when when it's wrapped up. But Her name is Amanda McGuckin-Hager. She was actually my boss 3 times in my career, which is really, so the first time she came on, I was already on, like, she inherited me to be on her team, but then she hired me again and then hired me again, to help with her with, like, when she was consulting, she brought me in to work for her. And yeah, she's not only like obviously a mentor and a personal friend, and she's taught me not only everything I know about marketing, but just like taught a lot about life. And she's just a really good person and a great sounding board. And yeah, I smile thinking about her because she's just really, really lovely. And is a sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on podcast, but she's just a badass. Like she's like, just has this, yeah, I could talk about her for hours. She's amazing. So she's a mentor and a friend.
Excellent, excellent. And then from your expression, I could see that she plays a big role in your life.
Definitely.
Advice for young, upcoming, or aspiring marketers?
You don't have to know how to do it all well, but dabbling in everything will give you a better understanding of what you really like. And I think, this also might be an unpopular opinion, but I think being a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none is a really good thing to have in your back pocket, even if you specialize in something down the track, because you get exposure to everything. Like, don't be scared to try all of the different, like, marketing is so multifaceted. So try stuff and learn stuff. You don't have to be an expert in it, but try it and figure out what it is that you really love.
Well, the thing that you just said about marketing, I look at life that way.
Totally.
I think it's a stupid thing to try and specialize in something when the spectrum of life is so broad. It's just stupid to narrow yourself down to something single. And I think that advice or that mindset could follow in professional department as well.
Absolutely. There's no reason you can reinvent yourself 10 times over. And so do that,
Absolutely.
You don't have to like be hyper focused in one thing. Try it all and see what you really enjoy more than anything.
Absolutely. As Bruce Lee said, be fluid like water, right? I
Yeah.
think that's what he said.
I think so. We'll go with it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got the final question. It's the big one. It's a really big one. I think it's probably the most important one so far. If you get $10 million tomorrow, what would you do with it?
I would first and foremost pay off my student loans, which for those of you not in America, they're very big. I would pay off my sister's student loans. I would pay off my other sister's student loans and my parents' student loans. So all the student loans from my family are gone. And then I would buy everyone in my family a home and buy myself a nice big home. And honestly, probably like take a little bit to take a really good holiday, but then invest the rest and live normal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would do much.
SaaS tool yourself?
No, hell no. I like being not on the non-founding team.
Excellent, Gabby. That's it from my side. This was amazing. I really had a good time. Thank you so much for taking the time out today and joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah, let's keep in touch. I'll see you on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Anatomy of a Rumor. If there is any feedback you would like to share with us, if you have any thoughts, any comments, or any particular questions or topics that you would like us to discuss, write to us at aor@rumors.com.au and we will respond to your query. Similarly, if you have any problems in your go-to-market strategy or you're facing any sort of problems in marketing in general, would be happy to have a chat. Simply jump on to the Rumors website and fill out the contact form and I myself will be in touch with you. See you next time.